Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guests are the stars of the upcoming beautiful, creepy, atmospheric Netflix series, Chambers, where a young woman begins unraveling the mysteries related to the girl whose heart she received in a transplant. Let's take a look.
What happened? I had a heart attack. I had to get a transplant.
Does it feel any different? Can you tell it's someone else's?
I just want everything to go back to the way it was before. It's just so weird that someone had to die in order for me to live.
How are you, Frank?
Thank you both. Your daughter, she saved Sasha's life. I can't even begin imagining what you all have been going through. I just want you to know that we're gonna do everything we can to keep her memory alive.
Nancy and I have endowed a scholarship in Becky's name.
We want to offer the scholarship to Sasha. Watch out for that family. I want to know who's inside of me. I'm seeing things that she saw. What the hell?
This is getting here, Sasha.
I think that one day we're gonna look back and realize that this whole heart attack thing was the best thing that ever happened to you.
Everybody, please put your hands together. From Chambers, we have Uma Thurman, Tony Goldwyn, and Sivan Alyra Rose. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
What up?
Thank you so much for being here. You know, we had a lot of members from the cast the other day that were here. Sivan was here as well, and I'm so happy to have you here as well because it's an incredible show, and it is really this beautiful ensemble piece where you guys are a huge part of it as well. So I'm glad to sort of complete the puzzle for myself in terms of conversations that I get to have about it. Uma, you are a producer on the show as well. How did this whole project begin for you, and what drew you to it?
Well, I just finished a play on Broadway, and I really wanted to do something. I was kind of, I guess I fell for Leah Rachel, who created the show. I really wanted to support a young, new female voice, and the diversity that this cast and show has is something I think is really important. Yeah. To see on screen, and I was really happy to give myself to that.
And I don't think I've seen you play a part like this before, someone who's so torn up, at least upon when we first meet her. Obviously, there's nefariousness happening somewhere in the show, but when we first meet you and Tony, the two of you are so broken up and destroyed over the death of your child. What is it like sort of approaching material like that right off the bat?
Well, Tony, you know, you've had it come close to your life. I mean, the idea of losing a child is, of course, the most unthinkable and painful thing imaginable. So, yeah, I wanted to do a straight drama, and you know, I've been heading back in that direction, and I thought, I was moved by Nancy.
I think we find you in a straight drama, but clearly there's other things happening around this straight drama that your character's living in.
Performance style.
Oh yeah. Okay. And Tony, what about you?
About the
character and approaching this pain and the grief that they're going through.
Yeah, that was actually something that I was worried about, because I do have two grown daughters, and the idea, when I felt similarly as Uma when I read Leah's script. It just felt really original and smart, and I didn't know where it was going, but I thought the character was certainly complicated and really interesting. And as Uma said, it's my worst nightmare, and I've had very close friends who've lost children, and so I was really glad I had Uma to lean on, because we're both parents with kids similar ages, and it's a really awful place to go, you know. But we wanted to do, the way I looked at it is I wanted to do, you know, honor the people that I know who've been through this, and so many people have. So I wanted to represent grief in a way that was authentic, which means you kind of got to go there, and so we did. So I was very grateful to have a friend like Uma, and who was so really committed to doing the same thing.
That's it. There's an element of your performance where, because we're seeing everything for the most part from Sivan's character's eyes, and a lot of it is it could be a hallucination, it could be real, there could be something nefarious. Your grief itself has to present as threatening at times.
That's one thing that's so cool, I think, about the show. What I liked about it initially in the script, and what I see in the finished version, is, you don't know, lots of very bizarre stuff is happening for Sivan's character, Sasha, in terms of her identification with the dead girl. And lots of strange things, Nancy, Uma's character, and my character, Ben, behave in extreme, very odd ways, but you don't know if it's just their grief speaking or if there's some other agenda. You don't know if Sasha, Sivan's character, is having these associations and identifications with this dead girl just because she has her heart, or is there something supernatural and really freaky going on? And so it really, the whole genre aspect of it is very organically kind of built into the show. It's not like, okay, here are the scares.
Do you ask those questions about the grief while you're doing the performance, or do you just try to ground it in, this is a woman who has lost her child and this is how she would behave because of that, and sort of not worry about the way that Sasha would be viewing your character?
Yeah, I mean, you have to authentically be true to the character you're playing, and not out of body thinking about someone else. But grief is not all. Grief is not all the tears. Grief is also the anger and the injustice that the character feels for having her precious child taken away. Barely the beginning fruiting of her life. It's terribly wrong, and I think that very much motivates Nancy's character. She's haunted by the awareness that something deeply wrong has happened. She just doesn't know what.
Sivan, there's a long line of sort of women on the verge of nervous breakdowns, hallucinatory nervous breakdowns, movies that I mean, it's a genre that I personally love, going back to Rosemary's Baby, Repulsion. Did you go and watch any of those projects with Leah, and what was it like for you sort of developing a character that's based on, we're not sure whether or not what she sees is real?
Well, I'm a horror fan myself, so when she had mentioned her inspirations and movie list of like chambers kind of to reference, I had already seen them, and they were some of them were my favorite. Rosemary's Baby is one of like my favorites.
The best. Yeah.
Approaching Sasha with this horror aspect, I was just excited to create a girl and a new character, someone who's very fresh in the media, right? On Netflix, like as a character. So it was easy to put what I felt was creepy as a horror fan, the things I appreciate behind, on screen. So I think Sasha translated very well in that aspect.
What was it like shooting in this landscape? Because you guys, excuse me, I forget, you shot in New Mexico, but it takes place in Arizona, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Right. So what was it like shooting? I mean, it's a landscape that we rarely get to see on screen, which is something that is so fun. I mean, the dust storm itself, hope that's not too much of a spoiler, is just absolutely beautiful. What was it like shooting in this landscape?
I loved Albuquerque in New Mexico. It was the least crowded place I've been in a very long time. Like they would think it was traffic, and there would be 5 cars on the road. No, it's really very beautiful, and the crew were really fine, good people, and it's God's country. It's America. It's beautiful. I enjoyed getting to be there.
I'm from the Southwest, so it's like my home. It's, I know it as well as I know myself. It's where I came from. So filming in New Mexico was super fun. I went to school in Santa Fe, so it wasn't
just happy to be home.
Yeah, this was chill. I knew I had friends there, so it was cool.
Right. Tony?
Yeah, I love New Mexico. And then I think, the Alfonso, who directed the first 2 episodes, and I think is also an executive producer on the show, really created a world that, finding those aspects of the Albuquerque surroundings that were really a match for the environment of the world of Chambers, which is set in Arizona. And what was, I thought, really cool about what they did in the show was there were 2 very distinct worlds. There's the world that Sasha is from, which is a disadvantaged area economically, and and it's mainly Native American, and people struggle to get through life. And then there's the world that Uma and I live in, which is more like Sedona, and very wealthy, affluent. The kids are terribly privileged. Our high school is insane. It's like a college campus, and we, in the story, we want a relationship with a girl who has our daughter's heart. So we bring her into our world and endow a scholarship, give her a scholarship to go to school. And Sasha's kind of like, what is happening? Why am I being plugged into this world? So they really created 2 very distinct environments, which if you went to Albuquerque, you wouldn't necessarily say, oh yeah, that's that place. So I was super impressed. We were finding locations in sort of the Red Rocks area where you really feel that texture that's very Arizona, that you wouldn't necessarily see, on first visit to Albuquerque, which is also very beautiful. But Chambers is a very purposeful, distinctive clash of 2 worlds, and it really is cool. It was interesting for me to be there and then see what they did actually, how it comes out on film.
What was it like seeing the episodes that you've seen for the first time? Because I don't think I've seen a television show. Obviously, with movies, a movie can come out a lot different. But with TV, you really they go by the writer, and the writer is usually just writing lines, and it's very plot heavy. With Chambers, it's very atmospheric, and it's very about giving ideas to the director to paint beautiful pictures. And I imagine you wouldn't necessarily know exactly what the show was going to look like until you saw the first or second cut. What was it like when you got to that point?
Me, I was watching edits quite a lot. So, I saw from the first edit. So I watched it evolve. That was fascinating, watching it evolve and get stronger and more condensed and move faster. And it's amazing to watch an editing process.
It's something that, like, what could be one line of description, in a script could end up being like 10 or 15 or 30 seconds on here, because that is part of the atmosphere, and that is about setting up this world, which is something we rarely see on television shows. Television moves like this, and it's all about plot. What was it like for you guys looking at
Well,
the
Alfonso, Gomez-Rejon is a real filmmaker.
Yeah,
and so he's the person who established the look of the show, and in partnership with Leah, obviously, who created it, what this wanted to be. And they really saw eye to eye on what they were attempting to do, which was very different from a lot of what you would normally see on television. When we started, Alfonso was very specific about the films he referenced, like Rosemary's Baby, or he had all these images he would show us about what the tone of the piece was. And so I felt like I had a sense of what he was aspiring to. You can't really tell until you see it. And then I directed one of the later episodes, so then was privy to some of the earlier cuts, and he showed me a lot of reference material. So I was like, oh, that's so cool what they're aspiring to. We're not being sure how much they will be able to realize, because it was pretty ambitious.
He's an incredible director. I mean, even a scene that is just a walk and talk between 2 people that on a normal TV show would just be 2 people, and you have a medium shot that's pulling back as they're walking forward. I was kind of blown away. It's just an interesting idea, a way to approach it.
On their backs?
Well, yeah, it's like on the backs of some people, and then kind of comes out in the middle of the set, and then they sort of walk around. It's just a new way to shoot this sort of standard thing that we normally see in TV. Nobody ever does that because they don't think they have time, and they don't really want to push the crew, I think, that often. Did you?
Well, it's also, thanks to places like Netflix and also premium cable, HBO and Showtime, the bar has been constantly raised. And I think Netflix has really changed the landscape so that television as a medium has become much more closer to filmmaking. The bar has been raised. So the conventional way of making television, the audiences won't put up with it because it's not interesting enough. it's not surprising enough. They see it coming. You know, there's a certain kind of a show that you know exactly what you're going to get, and you go, that's why I want to watch that, and I'll tune in every week, and it just is comforting to watch what I know.
Great British Bake Off.
But
Great British Bake Off.
yeah, or some network shows. You know, if you're watching Law and Order, it's amazing, but you
The
know exactly
Office.
what you're going to get. You know, that's the style is the style. But for a lot of newer stuff, I think people demand to be creatively surprised.
Yeah. Son, what was the toughest part about playing Sasha? I mean, you're on screen for the most part every scene.
Well, so that probably was the hard work, was the emotional work of Sasha, and I wanted to represent her emotions as honest as I could to come from a genuine place, so that reads on screen and it's well received. So Sasha goes through a lot. She goes through like quite amount of things. So for me, it was playing like emotional jumping jacks all day. It was, you know, it's going from like ecstatically happy with your boyfriend to like scary, spooky demon things are happening and now you're terrified and like screaming bloody murder. But I think growing up the way I did, I'm not unknown to like the scary parts of the world. I have never been stressed out. I don't have my own issues. So I think putting that energy and taking my energy and taking my biases down and putting that into Sasha was a really like life-changing experience.
She's also in the position where she is recognizing things that may be happening, but nobody else is recognizing those things. So you're constantly in a place of being told that, of basically being gaslit for the most part.
Feels very helpless, and it's that whole environment. But I like the way that they approach why the world to her feels like it's deconstructing, because Chambers has a really unique perspective because it is through Sasha's eyes and it is her immediate surroundings and her environment. But there's so much that they show is like Sasha wasn't in control of, and I think that really gives to her personality of like, you know, her friendships and her relationships, and that she's a genuine person, because life doesn't, you know, we can't plan it, we can't figure it out, and then things do get thrown your way. So I think it was nice to see her get surprised and her rug be pulled out from under her.
Uma, forgive me. Is this your first sort of like foray into television?
Well, of this kind, yes.
Of this kind. And what made it? Was it basically you finished the play and you're like, I want to do more different things. I want to keep trying different things.
I'm always trying different things. I've spent my whole life trying different things. So that's, if I have any pattern, it's to do something different than I did last. But yeah, no, I was excited. I'm excited to see it from the point of view of a producerial side as well. I'm working on other things in that arena, and I've really enjoyed the television that's been coming out in the last number of years. It's kind of like it's revolutionized that form of entertainment.
You can feel challenged as an actor, a lot more challenged as an actor on the set.
I think that the opportunities are endless, and it's exciting. Yeah.
I think we have some time for questions from the audience. Right here. Hi, sir.
So I have a question for Uma. For those of us who are concerned about humanitarian and social justice values and seen them at great threat during the last couple of years, what role do you see, if any, for people of stars of stage, screen, and television, and celebrities who also share some of those concerns as we approach the next election?
Well, I think that artists in general are always there to combat, you know, the sort of negative swings that can happen socially. And, you know, that's one of the beautiful things about this show, is that, you know, there are Americans of every kind, and genuine article, each of us. And I think that we just have to continue to fight for the sort of freedom and truth and inclusiveness that makes America a truly beautiful place.
Next question. Hi.
Hi. In your personal experience, what do you think is a secret to the successful acting career? To all of you, basically.
Well, I think the secret to at least enjoying your career is enjoying the work you do, being genuine and honest with everything you do, not doing anything out of a fast emotion, anything out of a disgenuine place. Because the industry is hard. You're not going to get everything you want. There's all kinds of weird things here, but I think the best way to stay sane and enjoy your time here is to enjoy your time and be yourself.
Pretty good.
We just leave that question there. That's a good answer. Yeah.
And-
2 more.
Yeah.
Or did you want to add to
No,
it?
and work your butt off, I guess.
Here?
Hi, guys. So I was just curious. I know in this sort of environment, I'm a huge horror fan as well. And I wanted to know, with all of the movies like Us and Get Out and now Chambers, what did you feel that is significantly different about this movie that sort of gravitated, you went towards it? And what is your your favorite genre to play?
It's a show. It's 10 episodes. So that's different.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what in terms of the genre aspect of it, what I most liked about it and what really drew me to doing it was the genre. I sort of mentioned this before, but the genre comes in very organically. So you're not sure if there's something from another dimension happening or if it's just in Sasha's head. Or, our Nancy and Ben, our characters, are we somehow creepy or nefarious, or is there some bad force going on, or is it just so that I thought was really interesting and unique, because I've done some horror movies as an actor where are either scary because they're violent, or that there's some supernatural thing, but right up front what you're getting, and this felt very different to me, because we're dealing with death and grief and the spirit world, and what does that mean, and is it real, does it exist or not? So that I thought was pretty fresh about this.
I'm just happy to be seeing a contemporary Native American story because, it's usually it's Old West or it's an older time. It's a really outdated, stereotypical play. So I'm just really excited to see Native Americans in 2019 being their complete selves. And it's horror, so it's super cool to have that on top of it.
I could be wrong, but it feels like there has been a growing trend in telling authentic Native American stories in the past couple of years. I mean, at least with the book There winning massive prizes last year, and with this, it seems like America is for somehow reckoning with first person's voices within the country.
We've been here the whole time.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's about fucking time, but I'm just saying, it seems like maybe. Yeah.
Never left.
Yeah.
We've been here, so I'm chill.
Wait, would you guys just come about? Where'd you come from? Sorry.
I guess that's the $1 million question, huh?
Right. Next question. One more.
What were the most challenging or memorable moments of working on the film, and what did you learn from them?
I have definitely learned endurance and emotional responsibility and emotional stability, and self-care is of the utmost importance on all guards, or you're just gonna crash and burn. It's an exhausting place to be. So definitely I learned grace.
How to be number one on the call sheet and not go crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Anything else? No? Guys, I love the show. Congratulations. It's an incredible show, incredible performances from the 3 of you. It's terrifying. It's also really beautiful and very well made. It comes to Netflix next Friday. Everybody give them a huge round of applause for Chambers and for being on this stage. Thank you.